It is just another day in Charleston, West Virginia, and the worker is clocking in for his shift at the chemical factory. As he slides his punch card, hearing the click that signifies the beginning and end of most of his days, he lets out a sigh of resignation. This isn't really the life he had imagined for himself as a boy, but it's a union job, and the pay isn't bad, so it's all worked out okay in the end. He doesn't love the smell, but there are worse jobs out there. It does get a bit monotonous, though. The same old thing day in and day out. Nothing ever changes around here. At least, nothing ever changed until now. As he walks to his usual station, the worker stops and does a double take. There's a workplace safety poster pasted in the entryway, one that he's seen every workday for the past 5 years. In all that time, the text never changed, but today, it's different. The reminder to always wear safety goggles and gloves has vanished, replaced with an illustration depicting a bowl of fruit. The text now reads, "The recommended daily amount for vitamin C is 75 milligrams a day for women and 90 milligrams a day for men. Make sure to eat your fruit, it's yummy too." The worker pauses for a moment, squinting in confusion. That's odd. Management has never given dietary advice before, seems strange to start now. But maybe there's some new employee health initiative he doesn't know about. He shrugs and continues inside. But as he enters the factory, he realizes right away that something is wrong. No one is working. None of the machinery is operating. Everyone is just standing around, speaking feverishly to one another. He taps one of the other workers on the shoulder, asking what everyone is so upset about. The man explains that one of the machines stopped working, so they tried to perform a repair, and when they opened it up, well, it'll be easier just to show him. When the worker's eyes fall on the open machine, he can scarcely believe what he's seeing. What was once a collection of metal parts, wheels and gears performing specialized functions, is now cubes of Swiss cheese and slices of tomato. What is this? Some kind of joke? No one at the factory is willing to confess to playing the bizarre prank, one that will cost them all a day's worth of pay if it isn't fixed soon. One worker runs to grab the manual for the equipment, but when he brings it over to the crowd, they find that all of the diagrams regarding the machinery are gone. Instead, the book is filled with nutritional information, recommendations of achieving a balanced diet, and a collection of 20 simple and healthy weeknight recipes. While that might be useful for someone trying to make a vegetable lasagna, it's pretty much worthless for the situation at hand. The workers at this chemical factory don't know, but the same phenomenon is afflicting factories all across town. Vital machinery is transforming into food, and all words printed on site are changing to encourage a healthy, balanced diet. Assembly lines are halted for the day, and workers are sent home as the management of these various factories attempts to uncover what appears to be some sort of grand food-based conspiracy. No one can pinpoint just what is going on. No one, that is, except for a group of kids out of school for the summer who just so happen to be walking along the bank of the Big Coal River in search of something to occupy this beautiful day. While the factory workers are panicking and scrambling for answers, this group of kids suddenly smells something delicious. The aroma wafts along the water, coming from somewhere just around the river bend. Curious, and with grumbling stomachs, the kids follow the smell until they spot its source. A man, or something shaped a bit like one, made entirely from macaroni and cheese. At first, the kids aren't quite sure what to make of this figure. On one hand, they love mac and cheese. But on the other hand, all of their parents have warned them about stranger danger before. No one ever prepared them for the possibility of a stranger made from their favorite food. They're about to give up and run away, writing the whole thing off as some sort of strange lunchtime fairy tale, when the mac and cheese man speaks. "Hi there, kids! Mac and cheese is pretty good, huh?" The kids don't answer, staring in wide-eyed silence. He takes this silence as an invitation to keep talking. "But when we have mac and cheese, it's important for us to make sure we eat our veggies too. Isn't that right, Mr. Broccoli?" He turns and faces the water, staring expectantly. After a moment of silence, something breaks through the surface of the water. Something green. A sea monster? The kids scream, backing away. "Don't be afraid. It's good for you. Look!" As the figure emerges from the water, the kids realize that it isn't a monster after all. It's a figure made entirely out of broccoli. The broccoli man opens his mouth to speak, but water pours out instead. He clears his throat, then tries again. "Hey there, don't be scared. It's very important to eat your vegetables." The broccoli man walks toward the mac and cheese man and climbs onto his shoulders as the kids watch, dumbfounded. They hear footsteps coming from behind them and turn to see even more piles of food shaped like people. One looks like applesauce, and one looks like peanut butter. One of the kids lets out a blood-curdling shriek at the sight. She's allergic to peanuts and left her EpiPen at home. The kids run away from the river as fast as their feet can carry them, leaving the food people standing by the water, sad and confused. When they get home, the kids feverishly tell their parents what they saw that day. Several of them are surprised by the reaction. Their parents believe them. They have similarly strange stories from their days at work and can all agree that something very, very strange is going on in town. After a few calls to the authorities, which are initially written off as pranks, word of this anomalous food-based activity reaches the SCP Foundation. Agents are quickly dispatched to the area to investigate, and along the bank of the river, they find the food people that the children encountered, all standing on each other's shoulders. One by one, the agents manage to wrangle the food people into a van for transport to the nearest containment facility, but their work is not yet done. The anomalous activity is continuing to spread, turning stop signs to giant pieces of pepperoni and street lamps to bushels of apples and oranges. Whatever is causing all of these changes, it's still in the area. The agents cross to the other side of the river, where an unmarked building stands abandoned and in disrepair. The first thing that the agents notice is the bugs. Swarms of ants and other insects pour out of the building when they open the front door, seemingly drawn by the piles of food scraps strewn across the floor. If they didn't know better, they'd think someone was squatting here and stockpiling food. But they do know better. They've seen the food people with their own eyes. So they aren't too shocked to see more of them huddled inside the ruined building. They are shocked, however, to see just how many of them there are. Almost 24 food people are waiting inside, stacked on top of each other in a pyramid formation. Grains make up the bottom of the pyramid, with fruits and vegetables on top. On top of the produce people, there are a few made from dairy products like cottage cheese, and some made of nuts. On top, there is a single figure made from butter. The agents consider calling for backup, but the food people appear to be peaceful. One by one, the agents disassemble the pyramid, and each of the food people comes with them quietly, climbing into the van. When the building is clear, the agents transport all of the food people back to the nearest Foundation site and get to work on putting out a cover story to the people of Charleston. As far as the people of Charleston, West Virginia know, the food people they saw that day, and every other strange occurrence, was caused by a chemical leak. Chemicals in the Big Coal River caused a variety of unusual effects on the population and produce. That was all, nothing more to worry about. They would never know why they all ended the day with the feeling of a full, satisfied stomach, or why they all had so much energy the next day. And they would never know that their town had been visited by SCP-1630. SCP-1630 refers to a group of 25 anomalous humanoids, each 1.54 meters tall and weighing between 21 and 231 kilograms. Instances of SCP-1630 appear to have intelligence corresponding with the average intelligence of humans between the ages of 20 and 26, and are fully capable of standard human sense and perception. The most unusual aspect of SCP-1630 instances is their physiology. Each instance is made up of an edible substance that is a common mainstay of the human diet, such as fruits and vegetables, cheeses, meats, and grains. What appears to be an instance's clothing is actually part of its body and is also composed of these edible components. Any damage to the body of an SCP-1630 instance will be healed promptly at a rate of 1 kilogram of regenerated mass per hour. Their bodies can be damaged by anything that would do damage to the edible substance a given instance is made up of, but they do not appear to decompose or rot at a standard rate. As of today, no instance of SCP-1630 has decomposed or died while in Foundation custody. The instances are capable of speech and communication consistent with their estimated intelligence levels. Every instance of SCP-1630 in Foundation containment has been cataloged, and though I have no interest in reading out the details on all 26 of them, I will provide some highlights for your consideration. The first instance to be contained and cataloged by the Foundation was SCP-1630-01. Its body is composed of raw meat, mainly pork and steak. When spoken to, it has expressed a passionate interest in food-based trivia, particularly pertaining to meat. It has a friendly, talkative disposition and is known to engage staff in rounds of meat-based trivia questions. Foundation staff converse with this instance and participate in its quizzes on a regular basis in order to maintain a congenial relationship and guarantee the entity's cooperation. SCP-1630-06 is a being constructed from baked beans, held together by joints made from pulverized beans to fill in the gaps. It is also coated in a classic, sugar-based baked bean sauce, which occasionally drips off of its body and onto the floor of its containment chamber. Sauce is also expelled from the entity's mouth whenever it speaks. This sauce buildup resulted in an infestation of ants in its original containment cell, forcing the Foundation to bring in an exterminator to clear the area. As it turns out, my mother was right to chide me for leaving food in my bedroom growing up. That is, in fact, how you get ants. SCP-1630-06 has been moved to a new containment chamber, which is cleaned regularly to make sure that the insect infestation will not spread or repeat itself. SCP-1630-08 is constructed entirely out of apples. Most of its body is made up of apple slices held together with applesauce. Its clothing is made from strips of apple peel in various colors, primarily red. Notably, the apple slices making up the entity's body have not shown any signs of the usual browning characteristic for sliced apples exposed to air. Whenever spoken to, SCP-1630-08 makes heavy-handed references to the expression, "an apple a day keeps the doctor away." Whenever approached by a doctor, the entity seems genuinely perturbed. SCP-1630-11 is constructed entirely from butter. Because the inside of its mouth is perpetually in a semi-liquid state, it is incapable of coherent speech. However, it is able to communicate via American Sign Language. Where it learned sign language, it will not say. Several Site-77 personnel fluent in American Sign Language have been assigned to its containment area so that they can maintain an open line of communication with the anomaly. SCP-1630-13 is made of oatmeal, clumped together into a humanoid formation. Strangely, it is always emitting a small amount of steam, as if the oatmeal has just been freshly prepared. Foundation staff who have skipped breakfast are not permitted to interact with SCP-1630-13, just in case. Requests from this entity for honey, maple syrup, or a sprinkle of cinnamon are to be rejected for obvious reasons. SCP-1630-15 is made up of garlic slices, and its clothing is constructed from strips of garlic woven together. Unlike other instances of SCP-1630, it has no sense of smell. The same cannot be said for personnel assigned to its containment chamber, though I'd wager a guess that they wish they had the same affliction. Though several staff have recorded becoming nose-blind to it over time, as well as expressing gratitude that they are not assigned to look after an instance made from an even more pungent foodstuff. If you share the same propensity for morbid curiosity as I do, you may be asking yourself, do these beings ever sample their own wares, so to speak? As far as I can ascertain, most of them do not, but there are exceptions. One of these exceptions is SCP-1630-22, which is composed of cottage cheese. Ever since it was first contained, SCP-1630-22 has been observed consuming small portions of itself on a regular basis. It isn't much, usually only a finger here and there, or a small chunk of its arm. When asked about this practice, it simply explained that it enjoys the taste, and the process does not hurt. Still, this habit was cause for some concern on the part of the Foundation, and personnel have been assigned to monitor SCP-1630-22 to ensure that it does not accidentally eat a bit too much of itself and accidentally self-terminate in the process. As far as I can tell, this is the only instance of SCP-1630 that has been observed participating in this sort of auto-cannibalistic activity. but I hesitate to declare that for certain, given how little we understand these entities. I do have to wonder what could be so appealing about cottage cheese, though. I never feel the impulse to snack on cottage cheese, and I wouldn't even have to sacrifice a finger to do so. But I'm getting off track. Where was I? Right, yes. SCP-1630-24 is made up of peanut butter, specifically the crunchy variety. I imagine a being made of smooth peanut butter would have a bit more difficulty moving and speaking, but the anatomy of these entities is so confounding that I can't say for certain. This instance of SCP-1630 is known for cracking jokes and speaking in non sequiturs. When asked about its sense of humor, notably more present than in other instances, it replied, "I guess I'm just nuts." Aside from accidentally sending a staff member into anaphylaxis during containment, promptly treated with an EpiPen, SCP-1630-24 has caused no notable issues. When more than 3 instances of SCP-1630 are in the same room, they will begin to climb on top of each other and form what I can only describe as a food pyramid. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's classic food pyramid seems to be the inspiration for this formation, as the instances will place themselves in a position matching that diagram, and their corresponding food items place on it. How exactly SCP-1630 learned about the food pyramid remains to be seen. When asked about the pyramid formation and this peculiar behavior, SCP-1630 instances will simply respond that they are fulfilling America's dedication to eat healthy every day. But they don't just enter this pyramid formation and remain there with no anomalous effects. When the instances have reached their intended positions, it will trigger something known as a delta event. As soon as a delta event is set into motion, human subjects in the vicinity will experience fullness and contentment as if they have just finished eating a healthy, well-balanced meal. Inanimate materials in the area will transform, maintaining their shape, but changing into an edible version of itself, like something out of a health-conscious Charlie and the Chocolate Factory knockoff. The foods that these items change into depend on the SCP-1630 instances present for the Delta event. Documents, visual or written, will also transform, but not into food. Instead, their content will change to highlight the importance of eating a balanced diet, as well as many reminders to follow the guidance of the food pyramid. The zone affected by the Delta event will spread at a rate of 100 meters per hour, and this progression can only be stopped by forcibly separating the SCP-1630 instances from one another. All instances of SCP-1630 must be kept in humanoid containment chambers located at Site-77. Their conditions must be climate-controlled depending on the composition of the individual instance and the optimal temperature and moisture level for preserving it. No more than 3 instances of SCP-1630 may be allowed out of containment areas at one time. If a containment breach should occur, security personnel have been authorized to use lethal force to prevent a Delta event. After I first learned of SCP-1630, I found it rather charming, if a bit unsanitary. I don't much care for the idea of that much food sitting out, touching the floor and various other shared surfaces all day. But an emphasis on health and nutrition seemed to suggest that SCP-1630 instances have good intentions, execution of those intentions aside. But then, I read the addendum attached to the file concerning a troubling development. On June 2, 2010, a new instance of SCP-1630 was contained and designated SCP-1630-26. Its composition appears to be sugars, fats, and artificial substances such as flavorings and preservatives. After it was contained, a Delta event was performed with SCP-1630-26 in a controlled, sterile environment. During this event, personnel taking part experienced nausea and a phantom sweet taste in their mouths. At the same time, documents throughout Site-77 were replaced by advertisements for various fast food, candy, and other confectionery corporations. Many of these corporations have not yet been confirmed to exist. A couch in the staff break room transformed into a pile of French fries, while the water cooler's contents became thick, syrupy sweet and artificially colored with the discontinued red food dye. The carpet turned to cotton candy, while tiles in the hallway turned to square hamburger patties. Other transformed items took on the shapes of foods that could not be identified, but that gave off a strong, meaty yet sweet smell that was described simply as artificial. After the conclusion of the Delta event, SCP-1630-26 was moved to another site, and containment procedures for SCP-1630 are pending updates. Since this incident, Site-77's medical staff have expressed concern regarding the elevated cholesterol levels of the on-site personnel, as well as a host of other health problems often attributed to poor diet and vitamin deficiency. Food and nutrition play a vital role in all of our lives. After all, without it, we would cease to live at all. But what forces might create such anomalous food-based beings? I can't wrap my mind around it. None of the instances will reveal where they might have come from, or who might have created them. Were they born inside of that chemical factory in West Virginia? Did their creator sell his technology to some corporation? Perhaps one of those advertised in the SCP-1630-26 Delta event. I don't know. All I know is that I'm starting to get a bit peckish after thinking about this much food. Whatever they are, wherever they came from, SCP-1630 gives a new meaning to that old adage, "You are what you eat." Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-2450, Teeth.